It's been said that April showers bring May flowers. But in this podcasting realm of mine, April showers bring May reflections. And reflections can bloom much more beautifully if you give them time and space than flowers, right? In any case, this is my rambling introduction to this rambling reflection episode.
Welcome to the Stark Reflections on Writing and Publishing podcast. There has never been a better time for writers. More information, options, and opportunities are available to you, but navigating these requires insight. Join Mark Leslie Lefebvre as he draws upon more than a quarter century of experience as a writer, a bookseller, and a trusted book industry consultant to explore and reflect on the writing and publishing landscape to help you make informed choices on your writer journey.
Hello, Reflectives, and welcome to episode 415 of the Stark Reflections podcast. This is your host, Mark Leslie Lefebvre. Today's episode is a solo episode, and it is called April Showers Bring May Reflections. It's going to be a slightly shorter than normal episode because it doesn't have an interview, but it is going to include some personal updates as well as reflections and comments from recent episodes. But before we get to that, let's hear a word about this episode's sponsor. This episode is sponsored by my affiliate link for Manuscript Report. If you've ever struggled with writing sales copy for your book blurbs, or ways to talk about your books to others with memes, or even log lines to share via social media posts about how awesome your book is, then you might benefit from Manuscript Report. Manuscript Report provides professional-grade marketing reports, content for blurbs, comp titles, authors, keywords, themes, tropes, categories, and so much more. In a matter of minutes, when you upload your manuscript, you can receive a detailed report that will up your game when it comes to marketing your books. It's like having a literary consultant and marketing expert all rolled into a single package that you can use in a DIY fashion, which I know indie authors love. Now, I've used this on more than half a dozen novels and story collections so far, and I'm continually amazed and stunned with the detailed analysis that it has performed on my books. It broke out the themes and tropes, helped me create some visual memes, with the book title showing the different tropey things with the curly line arrows, the way the cool kids are sharing those. And even helping identify 4 different target audiences, as well as brief 1-paragraph pitches that might work for each audience. Because again, your book may appeal to different audiences in different ways because of the different content and tropes and themes that appear in your books. Now, if you're interested in trying this out, you can save $5 off of your own custom personalized report by using code MARK5, that's Mark5, at checkout, and you can check them out over at manuscriptreport.com. And now comments from recent episodes. So, comments from episode 413, Coming Home to Your Found Family with Aaron Force. So, over in the comment section at starkreflections.ca, Edwin Downward said, "You've been talking about the new Canadian Indie Author Conference," and he means the Toronto Indie Author Con, TIAC, and it sounds so inviting. Unfortunately, I live on the West Coast, and the con is in Toronto, which, in my mind, outs it on the other side of the planet. Still, it couldn't be any more challenging to get to than When Words Collide, which is also on the other side of the mountains in Calgary, and therefore a world away from home. Excellent point, Edwin. I really, I understand that as well. Travel can often be a challenge, which is why virtual, conferences and things like that can make life that much easier. The other thing as well is I am eventually, we've delayed moving to the West Coast to Victoria, but I do plan on, when moving to Victoria, already been in contact with some folks out there trying to see if we can organize some more gatherings. And I know that the Toronto Indie Author Con, so I do know that the group they announced at the con, they're changing it to Indie Authors Canada, and I think it would be amazing that perhaps there's going to be a group of people that continue to put on something like this under that brand in Toronto, but maybe there can be a moving show, for the East Coast, the actual East Coast of Canada, not the pretend center of Canada in Ontario, as we often like to think we are, but them doing stuff like in Vancouver or Victoria as well. I think that could be a possibility, even if it's just a small one-day event. Under that brand, that could be an option. Now, I did, when they talked about Indie Authors Canada and creating that as a whole new entity, I immediately volunteered. I jumped in and said, yes, I'd love to be involved in this. How can I help? Can I join the board? Can I do some stuff to help bring this great content to Canada? So, Edwin, and anyone else in Canada who's interested in such events, stay tuned. I'm sure I'm going to be talking more about this because I've been a sponsor. Stark Reflections has been a sponsor of the Toronto Indie Author Conference since it started all those 1 year ago, and I plan on continuing to do what I can with Indie Authors Canada as well. I mean, I'm a member of the Alliance of Independent Authors as well, which was founded in the UK but is a global movement. But I do love those homegrown things and bringing more content to amazing Canadian authors as well. So why not? So thank you for that, Edwin. And it's a reminder that, being just Toronto-centric is not necessarily good for everyone. It may just be good for authors who can get to it. So when I end up moving to Victoria, that could be a great opportunity. I mean, even if it isn't Victoria, it's just a ferry ride, right? Not as daunting as the mountains, potentially. not as challenging to navigate. Who knows? Anyways, thanks for that comment, Edwin. And for the same episode, over on YouTube for that episode, Stace Johnson said, "Congratulations to Rachel. She's such a vivacious and funny person." So right you are, Stace. And Stace is talking about Rachel Renner, who I met at Toronto Indie AuthorCon and who just had a huge, $230,000 US dollar Kickstarter, and I did interview Rachel on Draft to Digital Insiders a couple weeks ago. It was just right after TIAC, and I'll have a link to that in the show notes if I didn't already, or did I do it last week? Who knows? Why don't I add it just again? So thank you for that. And then over on YouTube as well, for episode 414, which was Thanks for the Inspiration, Nancy Kilpatrick, Sam Reeves said, "Thank you for making this video. Hearing about Nancy's passing was a shock. I never got the pleasure of meeting her in person, but she and I emailed and chatted fairly frequently during the last 10 years or so. I was one of her beta readers. She was always so kind. She sent me pictures of her vast vampire book collections or Edgar Allan Poe figurines she had found. Every year, there'd be a birthday card in my inbox. Like you said, she is missed." Thank you so much for that, Sam. I had to honor Nancy, and again, particularly since we shared a birthday, I wanted to spend the time just thinking about just how awesome she was and how wonderful a person she was, and the vampire collection that she had, and all the great creepy knickknacks and things. I even had a comment from fellow horror author friend Carol Weeks, and I'd published both Carol and Nancy together in Campus Chills, and Nancy took the train out to Ottawa to do an event together, and Nancy ended up missing her train back to Montreal, so stayed with Carol. And then when Carol was in Montreal for an event after that, Carol got to stay at Nancy's place in Montreal, and I love, this is something that the Dean of Canadian Science Fiction, Robert J. Sawyer, does all the time. I always think about Rob as this incredible linchpin. There are people in the community that love connecting others. Dale L. Roberts from Self-Publishing with Dale does this all the time. Rob Sawyer does this all the time too, is he finds people and he says, "Oh, you need to talk to so-and-so because, it's kind of like that, you got your chocolate and my peanut butter, I got my peanut butter and your chocolate, and we can make something really good together." And Rob Sawyer does that in an incredible way, and so does Dale Roberts. And I'd like to believe that in some small way, I'd love to live by that example and do some of that. And so hopefully I did a little bit of that by connecting two amazing horror authors and women I love and adore, Nancy and Carol, and them together at least got to get to know one another. And there's a reflection in that too. What are the ways that you can operate in that manner? That you can connect two different people together, because magic can happen when people connect. That's it for the mini reflection right here in the comments. That's it for comments. Thank you guys so much for leaving your comments. You can leave comments over at starkreflections.ca for any episode. It's also posted to YouTube. You can @ me on the social medias, which I sometimes see, sometimes I can't see, depending on the busyness and all the tags that I get on social media. Or you can even email me your comments, because I really love to hear what you're thinking about when you share your own reflections and your own thoughts while you're listening to the episodes. But that is it for comments. I'm going to play a bumper and get into the next little introductory segment thingy. I would like to take the time to welcome new patron Kylie Haddix to the group of folks who support this podcast over at patreon.com/starkreflections. Welcome, Kylie. So glad to have you as part of the team. I appreciate your support. And Kylie, I did send you a message directly on Patreon, making sure you got access to the additional RSS feed if you had any trouble with that, as well as your author URL, so I can share that over at starkreflections.ca for the patrons page. So I have a list of all my patrons and links to your websites, because, we've got to share that love too. And just a reminder to Kylie and all of the folks who support this podcast that there are 2 new bonus options for patrons that I announced a couple episodes back last week. And this is, you can get a complimentary short story narrated by the awesome Aaron Force, who is subject matter, my interviewee, my buddy for episode 413. So you get an access to that. There's a form link and a complimentary manuscript report. I do have the ability to cover the cost for a handful of reports, and it's part of the subscription that I regularly pay for, and I want to share that with my patrons so you can check it out and benefit. Hey, because I want to give back to that awesome community. So the forms for indicating your interest in either the manuscript report or getting Aaron to do a short story of yours, they're still active, and they are linked to from the appropriate posts that are visible to all paid patrons from all levels over at patreon.com/starkreflections. So again, welcome, Kylie. And did I actually welcome when Aaron Force joined several weeks back? I think Aaron joined about a month and a half ago. It was shortly after Superstars that Aaron joined. So again, welcome, Kylie, and welcome, Aaron. And thank you to everyone who supports the podcast over at patreon.com/starkreflections, as well as buymeacoffee.com. Okay, one more bumper and then getting into the main content here. So the very first thing I want to share in my May Reflections episode is a bit of a personal update. And I'm going to kind of reflect and personal update at the same time and just roll them all into one rambling reflection series, sequence, whatever you want to call it. And it is the One Book, One Community. And if you're probably familiar with the One Book, One Community platforms that are rolled out usually via libraries, sometimes bookstores in different communities all over the world. But my book, Haunted Hamilton, which came out in 2012, my very first nonfiction book of true ghost stories, Haunted Hamilton, published with Dundurn, Canada's largest independent publisher in Toronto. The Haldimand County Public Library reached out to me and they wanted to select this. So it was officially announced earlier this week. The One Book, One Community is Haunted Hamilton by Mark Leslie. And in October, I will be doing an in-person event at the library. But it is such a thrill and such an honor. So the idea of One Book, One Community is they pick a book, the library or bookstore or whatever spotlights this book for, the months. So I guess between May and the end of the year, it's an annual thing they do. And they try to get as many people as possible to read the book so they can do book group discussions and stuff like that. So a few things in relation to that is, yes, I'm doing an event in October with Haldimand Community Public Library. And I told them, I said, if there are book clubs or people who want me to come and visit with them and do Q&A or whatever, I am more than happy. I'm even looking at, for that special event, producing something special that I can give to people. Now, obviously, the cost for printing will be whatever, but potentially like the ebook thing would be free, maybe an audio that's available for free, just so people can check it out. And maybe it'll just be like an addendum, like, stories that didn't make it into Haunted Hamilton, but that I put in my virtual walk, or I've researched over the years. And but maybe there's a print version that's actually going to have to cost something, because I can't pay for all of those. But anyways, doing stuff like that, as well as I was thinking, wouldn't it be fun over the course of the summer to do a series of short video clips like I'd done years ago, where I go to different spots in Hamilton and I record myself in front of these different haunted locations and I share a brief story. Again, it could just be I did a part of the 60 spooky seconds where it was like 1 minute long. Maybe it's something nice and brief, nice and short, just to share, like, hey, here I am, and I'm holding up the book and I'm going to share this story. I think that could be a lot of fun. I'm getting together with Mickey Mickelson, my PR guy, who does PR for me, and we're going to be putting together some sort of press release package that we can send out, because I want to take advantage of this as much as possible. It is a true honor to have one of my books selected, especially a backlist book. Like, think about how many years ago that book came out, and it's probably going to sell, probably not as well as it did when it first came out, but it's very rare for a traditionally published book title to sell at 12, 13, 14, like 15 years later, 13 years later, I can't do the math, but more than 10 years later, for it to have such a resurgence in sales. So I'm pretty stoked about that. I've reached out to Dundurn to see what we can do, what we can offer. Can I do book events at various bookstores in the Haldimand, Hamilton, in that part of Ontario, where that is located? What can I do to further promote this? So I really want to go all out and do as much as I can, because I'm so thrilled and so honored and so excited. And then the other update. So that's kind of awesome. Again, it's one of those bucket list items to have, and so I want to take advantage of that, and I want to do as much as I can with it. On the more personal side of things, I mentioned earlier in this episode that it was my birthday on Tuesday, so Liz, my partner, took the afternoon off work. She came home at a little after noon. I actually thought it was going to be a little bit later. So she caught me by surprise. I was trying to get caught up on getting a bunch of work done in the morning. And so I took the afternoon off as well. We went out to a few places. So we decided to go, not necessarily we did stuff in the community later, because we ended up going to Arabella Beer Park, which I love. That was sort of later in the evening, early in the evening. We went there. But for the afternoon, we went out to Guelph. We wanted to check out some places. Now, there were a few breweries that we haven't been to in Guelph that weren't open on the Tuesday. There was one that I wanted. What was it called? Wrinkly Bear Brewing Company. I wanted to check out, and because I saw them on social media, I was like, oh, we should check them out, but they weren't open. We ended up going to Fixed Gear Brewing, which we haven't been to in several years. We've had their beer over the years as well at different places, but that was great to return to. It was mommy and baby afternoon on Tuesday, so Liz and I were there with a bunch of women with little babies, and we're like, oh, that baby's the same age as our granddaughter, and so that was kind of cute. So we went there, and then we also went to Royal City Brewing. We'd actually had lots of their beers over the years, but we'd never been to the beer hall there, and it was a really wonderful place, and it had the most amazing nachos, and the staff were phenomenal. But the main reason we went to Guelph was Liz wanted to do something fun and unique, so we did. Have you ever done an escape room? Yes, no. Raise your hand. Say, oh yeah. Especially if you're wearing headsets and walking around somewhere and you yell out, people may look at you. That's okay. It's all good. Say, hey, I'm listening to Stark Reflections podcast, man. Do you ever been to an escape room? You know what that's like. But have you ever done VR, virtual reality? So we went to a VR escape room. So just in a nutshell, if you've not done either or, an escape room is kind of like where you're in a locked room, usually with a small group of people. It can be, two. It could be, you do it yourself, like 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. It's better with more people because you can put your brains together. It's usually on a theme. And then you have to figure out based on clues in the room, what the hidden codes are to get access to unlock these different things. And usually when you unlock this one thing, there's something in there that helps you get the clue to the next thing. You usually have to unlock 4 or 5 different things before you can actually escape the first room you're in. Then you get into the second room and there's more clues and there's things along the way. And you eventually have like an hour and it's timed to get out. And don't worry, they actually let you out if you can't escape. And it's a really fun event. Liz and I have done that before. I've done that several times. Just recently did one in Orange County with my good friend Julie and her daughter and her daughter's boyfriend. And we actually got out only probably because her daughter's boyfriend had done it before and helped us with some of the clues. He remembered some of the things. Anyways. And then VR, virtual reality, is where you have like usually a headset and you have things that you hold in your hands. Now, I remember my kid Alex and I done this several times at a place in Kitchener where you actually, the VR, where they actually put on you're wearing like a backpack and you have stuff attached to your feet, like your ankles, and then you have stuff on your hands. And so you can actually see the full body of the person. And you go through these virtual reality adventures where you're immersed. You're in a giant room and you're walking around. And this particular one, which was the Exis escape rooms in Guelph, Ontario, in the VR escape room, and we did the Manor of Escape room. So we're in a big room, which would be kind of like a size of a classroom with nothing in it, right? Like there's no desks or anything. It's just completely empty floor space. You put on the headset, and it's already configured so that it doesn't let you walk into the walls. It actually blocks you. And it's Manor of Escape. We're at a manor. Liz and I are both trapped there. And again, we only had the headset on and the hand modules. And basically, there's just one trigger on the module. It's kind of like a Wii game controller, very similar. You kind of put it around your wrist so you can't drop them. And that allows you to pick things up, right? You can clap, like by holding the button down, you grasp, and then you can let go, and then you can throw things and stuff like that. So, very simple navigation, but then I can see where Liz is, and she can see where I am as we're moving around in this space, and we were locked in basically a manor, and we're trying to escape from the manor, this sort of haunted manor with monsters and things in it, and move from room to room to room. And it was really fun and really immersive. And again, it's escape room style, where we have to figure out codes and manipulate things and open things up and move things out, and we can get hints as well. We didn't quite make it. There's a spot where these demons were attacking us, and we had to pick up these like bows, and then pick up these arrows and flaming arrows and throw them at these demon creatures. And we didn't quite make it out, but we made it like it was like 90% of the way, or 96% way to the end. And it was just so much fun. If you ever get a chance to try them, I guess the benefit of a VR escape room is in an escape room, they need quite a bit of real estate, especially if they have multiple escape rooms, because you're like in one room and then to another room, then to another room. And sometimes usually like 4 rooms that you have to navigate. But in the virtual reality space, we're just in a single room, and we're going from room to room to room and just walking around in the same space. Again, the way they configure it so you don't bump into the walls, like you can see the other person so you don't bump into them. But bumping into the walls when you get, because you're limited in where you can go, and as you get close to the edge, it won't, like it stops you. It doesn't stop you, but it kind of shows you that you're at the edge, and it flashes sort of a little warning sign so you don't, bump your head into anything. It'd be pretty difficult. I mean, unless you're a complete idiot and you run at things, because in one of the ones, I think the first one, where we're up waist deep in water and there's sea creatures swimming around outside this, we're in this cage, so we can't actually leave. I mean, if you're an idiot and you run at the bars, well, you're going to hurt yourself. so they try to idiot-proof it as much as possible, but I have never injured myself in one of those rooms yet, because I haven't done the stupid thing, like running right up against the wall to see what happens. Well, guess what happens? You walk into the wall, you idiot. Anyways, it was an absolute blast. I highly recommend it. It's just a great different thing to do. There's a few other newer ones in the area, and I know I'm going to do that with Alex, because Alex and I quite enjoy the VR, and have only done one escape room together with a friend of mine in Ottawa. Okay, so that's what we did for the birthday. In terms of other reflections I just wanted to share was, I'm back working on my book, A Book in Hand. I think I've done another probably 8 to 10,000 words. I'm making some progress on that. I did connect in a virtual sort of, it was like an hour long. So we had like 2 20-minute sprints with my friend Julie. And we both did some, we just connected in a Zoom room together and talked for a few minutes. And it said, okay, 20-minute sprint, right. And I think I got like 1,500, 1,700 words done. And this is work on a fiction title in my Canadian Werewolf series. So that felt really, really good to just not care and go, okay, just going to write. We could do those timed writing sprints. And that was kind of fun. It was good for Julie, and it was good for me as well. So that was a positive in terms of my own writing. I do have so many other projects to get back to, but hey, I'm chipping away at them as best I can. And then the other thing I wanted to share is I'm thinking about so many different things. I mentioned this earlier. I'm thinking about community and connecting and the value that we have in connecting with one another, how our books help one another in connecting. I mean, that was the topic of the keynote that I did for the Book Fest, and there'll be a link to that online. I did share that as special audio for my patrons. I think it was just the week prior to that keynote, so my patrons can hear that. But anyone can listen to it now, and it's on their YouTube channel. So I've been thinking about those connections. I've been thinking about the ways that we can lift one another up instead of trying to tear one another down, and the little things that we can do. And one of those things I mentioned earlier is, what can we do to connect the right people and say, hey, you really need to talk to so-and-so. Because magic can happen when you connect with new people. And I find that all the time. New magic can happen with these new connections that you make. And then also thinking about what you can do as an author in terms of your own connections and stuff. So I mentioned earlier, okay, one book and one community. I mean, it was sure luck of the draw, I guess, that they decided they wanted to do a book that was local to the region, like Haldimand Hamilton region, and they thought, okay, this could be a good one. And there is a local, tie to it. But then I'm looking at, so what can I do with this in ways that can be part of the community, right? So I can go and leverage some of my research and knowledge and benefit the community, and focusing on that as what I want. Yes, the idea ultimately is there will be some people who go and read the book or buy the book or whatever it is, or ask for it at the library. All of those things benefit me as an author. But my focus isn't on selling books. It's providing value to that community. And similarly, so I am a judge of Writers of the Future, and I was in LA in April for the annual celebration of the amazing authors and Writers of the Future, volume 41, the best new science fiction and fantasy short stories of the year. And fellow Canadian from Hamilton, Ontario, Patrick McPhee, is one of the winners. And it was so cool that he's so local. So, I mean, obviously every year I get to connect with the new writers, and it was like, okay, dude, you're local. We should connect. We should do stuff together. And so collaboratively with Galaxy Press and the PR folks there and the connections reached out and said, let's connect with some bookstores. And this is his first professional sale as a short story writer. He's gotten other things in the market, but this is his big one, right? Because it's in a major book that's available traditionally through, bookstores everywhere and libraries. What can we do locally with various bookstores? And so one of the bookstores that Patrick is connected with and his publicist connected with and included me in this was, you've got like local judges, myself and Rob Sawyer, who may be able to attend. Now, again, the focus is on Patrick and this win, but as a judge of the contest who has a history in the community and a history in science fiction, fantasy, and horror, to be there showing our support. And we may be able to draw in people who come to see us so they can meet Patrick. Again, magic happens when you focus on trying to spotlight someone else. So not saying that I'm a big deal, but because I'm the author of Haunted Hamilton and because I've done some successful events, with One Hand Screaming and other things in the community, can I bring people into the store so they can come to see me, but then get an opportunity to meet awesome Patrick. And one of the things I'm thinking about, and I'm still trying to formulate this properly, but his story, and it's so funny because, you read the stories and you love the stories and you don't know who wrote them until you get there. Until we get there, judges don't know who wrote what story. They're just like, I love this story. I love this story. Love Patrick's story. His short story in Writers of the Future, Volume 41, is 30 minutes or it's a paradox. And it is a time travel story that involves a pizza delivery and, 30 minutes or it's free. And it's just a really fun, adventurous romp that Patrick created. So I thought, okay, so we have this theme here. We have this great story he wrote, and I love pizza. Is there something we can do related to, hey, come and meet Patrick, author, award-winning author, right? Writers of the Future, Volume 41, and his story, 30 minutes or it's a paradox. And maybe there's an opportunity we can do that involves a local pizza place and some sort of prizes. Maybe it's a matter of me just going and buying a bunch of gift cards for pizza places, and it's sort of a random draw that you just come in, no purchase necessary, for an opportunity to win a card, right? Again, because with lottery you can't have a purchase necessary or whatever. So something like that. And then I have a short story that I leveraged as a prize, The Pizza Man. So I have a horror story about pizza. And it's like maybe that can be something as well we can use as something to draw people in so they can check out Patrick's story. But in any case, I just wanted to share what I was thinking because it relates to thinking outside the box. What can you do for engagement in an event, right? And again, this engagement is me trying to bring people into an event so they can learn about Patrick, and they can learn about this great collection of stories from Writers of the Future. That's the focus. But what can I do to help spotlight that story and help him with some ideas for promotion and marketing? So again, looking at, okay, what's the story? What's the story about? What does it connect to? What does it tie into? Oh, it ties in with pizza. Oh, what could we do related to that to make it fun and to make it exciting? And again, that's what we do as storytellers, right? That's all marketing is. It is a really important reminder that marketing is a scary term, but leveraging your skills and your imagination as a storyteller and how you can make those connections and turn this from I'm just going to be here signing some books into something that can be fun and exciting. Let's go back to the thought of the escape room and the themes. They're all drawn on the themes of what's going on in the escape room. Like, Liz and I were in a castle, so all the things were related to different places and locations in the castle, the dungeons and the front yard and all the different elements that could be associated with that. So again, what can we do related to pizza or potentially time? Maybe related to time travel and paradox and stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff to think about when you're thinking about marketing. And so I'm going to wrap up this episode because I just wanted to share a few updates. I wanted to share some thoughts and reflections. And then I guess I wanted to share just sort of the very last thing is sort of more of a personal update reflection, but it's that I have been so overwhelmed lately with such a backlog of things, right? A backlog in getting my taxes filed, a backlog with stories that I need to write, like I should have by now. I mean, it's May already. It's been more than a year since the previous book in my Canadian Werewolf series, and I'm kind of stuck between. I really want to work on that book, A Canadian Werewolf in London, Ontario, because I kind of have a conceptualization of what needs to happen in that. But I also have 2 short stories that I've done in that universe. One was published last year, but and now I sort of have the rights back to do what I want with it. And I wanted to do a digital or a box set, sort of digital box set. And then I had this other short story, which was the origin story of when Michael first became the werewolf, because it goes back to, instead of just a brief flashback, it's like the story of, well, this is actually what happened, the details of what happened when he first got bit by the wolf and then discovered that he had the werewolf abilities. And that's called Once Bitten. It's probably going to be about 20,000 words. And I think I only have about 8,000 words written. So I'm kind of stuck with all these things I want to do. I want to write the book 8 in a series. I want to get the short story out. And I was like, do I do the short story as part of the box set? What do I do with the short story that takes place between Stowaway and Fear and Longing in Los Angeles? So I have all of these moving parts, and I'm not sure what to do next. So I'm kind of stuck there. And in the meantime, I've got these books for writers I'm working on, a book in hand, and then an author's guide to branding for author success, based on talks that I've been doing about these topics over the years. And then I even have the trivia books, the movie trivia books. So I put out Canadian Mounted 3 years ago. 2 years ago, I put out the Die Hard book, Yippee-Ki-Yay. And then last year I did the Merry Christmas, the Shitter Was Full for Christmas Vacation. And it's like, all right, so what's the trivia book I'm going to release at the end of this year, like towards the Christmas season? And I was initially thinking I would do the Holy Grail. Monty Python's Holy Grail turned 50 this year. That'd be a good one to do. Now, Life of Brian's my favorite, and that's the one that I already have notes put aside for. So I kind of stalled on that. I've wanted to do the Terminator, like the original Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator movie and the franchise and all the things there, because I'm so passionate. And again, I'm just halfway through the last season of Cheers, which I absolutely adore. And as I'm watching that, I was like, yeah, I need to do a book about Cheers, just because it's been such a big part of my life. And I remember so much of the episodes, and there's so many cool facts. Like I just found out that the guy who plays Phil, there's a lot of the characters you only know their first names, Phil and Pete and Paul and stuff like that. And Phil is actually Rhea Perlman, and Rhea Perlman played Carla as Rhea Perlman's father, who plays Phil, and she treats him like crap. There's a few scenes where she throws a drink in his face, because that's kind of one of the things that Carla does. Anyways, and I only learned that because I'm just looking at the credits, and I went, oh, Phil, yeah, bye, and then his last name was Perlman. I'm like, oh my God, is he related to Rhea? Anyways, I'm kind of stuck. And again, this is the thing, and you do this with children. And I remember when Alex was little, instead of saying, okay, here's now you can figure out what you want to wear to dress yourself when you get to that point in your life. You don't want to just show the whole closet and say, okay, here are the 13 or 14 different tops and whatever pants and stuff like that. You say, okay, here's, you choose from these 2 or these 3. So you limit them, because you can get analysis paralysis. It happens to authors all the time. It's why Draft to Digital Print, for example, only has the 6 most common trim sizes, not 35 different trim sizes. It's like, what do I do? Well, here, we narrowed it down for you. Here are the 6 most popular. Just pick one of those. Here are the 26 templates rather than 492 different templates. And so that happens to me a lot. It happens to authors a lot in general, but it happens to me a lot because I have so many ideas, so many things I want to do in so many different directions. And I think I have to take my own advice and sit back and go, okay, I'm going to work on this now. I'm going to work on this other thing. And I think, honestly, the answer might be, okay, let's get started on this thing and see where it takes us. Because sometimes just sitting down and starting to focus on a project can take us to that next level. Now, I've signed a contract with Woolsack and Wynne, a Hamilton area publisher, and I know in December I have to turn in the a book of ghost stories about the Great Lakes, and I have a cover for it already, which I went to my cover designer, and Noelle loves the cover, so like, hey, well, let's just use that, because I think I needed a visual for something. Author newsletter updates, something like that. I just wanted to have a visual for it. So I thought, what the heck, why don't I pay for this? And I also did receive a grant from the Ontario government, but I will be doing some travel this summer and going to specific locations. So can I double down? When I'm doing some of the travel, on the waterfront in Hamilton, can I do some videos to promote the One Book, One Community while I'm doing associated research, or while I'm on the road, on my way to, maybe it's Niagara, on the lake, to do some stories that are associated with that area. Can I do multiple things at the same time? So again, I'm sharing my the stalemate position that I'm in where I've kind of been struggling. And I remember having this, I remember having a similar stalemate back in 2020. And what I did to break the mold of the frustration I was having because I didn't know what to work on next and I was getting stuck on things. And I just went and did something different, creative, very short things, right? And that, doing these really short creative projects gave me what I needed to remind myself I am ultimately a storyteller, and I will tell stories in book, and I will still tell stories in video format. I'll tell stories as stupid dad jokes that I do on social media. They're all part of what I love to do as a storyteller in general, whether it's selling books, writing books, selling books or stories, or it's some other form of expression. And I think that's a really important aspect, is finishing those smaller projects gives me the confidence, reminds me that I can do it. And it also reminds me that, just like Anne Lamott said in Bird by Bird, I'm going to do it, bit by bit. I'm going to take these chunks away little by little by little, and I'll be that much closer to my goal. But that's it for my rambling May reflection. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Thank you for all my supporters who support the podcast, as I mentioned, at patreon.com/darkreflections or buymeacoffee.com/Mark Leslie. But thank you for listening, because listening to the podcast is a great support. And you just listening helps me out. And you can listen wherever you catch podcasts. Leaving a review wherever you happen to listen to podcasts is also another great way of helping me out, because reviews do help people discover. And speaking of discovery, one of the most powerful things you can do to support me and this podcast is share this episode or any episode that you think would bring value to someone else, because bringing value to other people makes us feel good, doesn't it? But that helps me a lot. It probably helps the person you shared it with, and it helps you feel good about doing something pretty amazing, because sharing, of course, as we know, is caring. But thanks again for listening. Until next week, and until next episode, this is Mark Leslie Lefebvre wishing you great writing and good Stark Reflections.
Thank you for listening to the Stark Reflections podcast. You can find show notes for each episode at starkreflections.ca.
The music for this podcast, Laser Groove, was composed and produced by Kevin MacLeod. Check out more of Kevin's great music at incomptech.com.